The broadcast came in at 2 a.m. You were doing perimeter checks when your radio operator sprinted out of the communications building, face pale, hand shaking. You need to hear this right now. You followed her inside. She played the transmission. Clear signal. Professional production. The kind of broadcast that requires real infrastructure, real power, real organization behind it. Attention all settlements in the Pacific Northwest region. This is Archon Station broadcasting on emergency frequency. We are a coalition of 47 settlements, 12,000 survivors operating under unified governance. We've been monitoring your Federation's radio traffic. We're impressed by your democratic structure and military capability. We're extending an invitation. Join Archon Station as a regional member. Pool resources, coordinate defense, unified leadership. You have 2 weeks to send envoys for negotiation. This is not optional. All settlements in our region will integrate. Voluntarily is preferable. But integration is inevitable. Respond within 14 days. Archon Station out? Static. Then silence. You played it 3 more times. Same message. Same tone. Polite threat wrapped in diplomatic language. 12,000 people. 47 settlements. Unified governance. Your federation has 1,500 people across 15 settlements. And half of them are still arguing about last winter's resource crisis. You just found out you're not a regional power. You're a small fish in a much bigger pond. And something very large just noticed you exist. Welcome back, survivors. This is part 14, the Archon Ultimatum. You've spent 13 episodes learning to survive infected, hostile survivors, false governments, and the moral weight of leadership. But everything you've built just became irrelevant to someone bigger, because they have the numbers to take it. And they're giving you 2 weeks to decide if they have to. Let's talk about surviving when democracy meets empire. The Emergency Council meeting. Dawn. Every settlement representative gathered at Sanctuary Station. Emergency session. The room is chaos before you even start speaking. The Security Council member is on his feet immediately. 12,000 people. 8 times our size. We can't fight that. We can't refuse that. Either way, we've already lost. The council engineer counters. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. They said invitation. Maybe this is legitimate regional cooperation. We hear them out before we panic. The former Raider representative laughs bitterly from the back of the room. I've heard this pitch before. Join us voluntarily or we make you join. That's not an invitation. That's a ransom note with better vocabulary. The Reclamation Force commander joins via radio link. His voice crackles through the speaker mounted on the wall. I've been monitoring Archon Station's communications for 6 months. They're real, organized, and expanding aggressively. 47 settlements didn't all join willingly. Some were absorbed by force. They're building an empire and calling it unification. The room goes quiet. You ask the question everyone's been avoiding. Can we fight them if it comes to that? The commander doesn't hesitate. Not conventionally. They have numbers, resources, and coordination we can't match. Even with Reclamation Force support, we lose a direct engagement. The question isn't whether we can beat them. It's whether we can survive them. 14 days. That's what you have to figure out if Archon Station is a genuine regional government offering cooperation or a warlord empire demanding submission. 14 days to decide if the Federation survives as an independent entity or becomes a footnote in someone else's history. What reconnaissance reveals? You don't make decisions blind. Not anymore. You authorize an immediate intelligence push. Every scout, every Reclamation Force asset, every contact in distant settlements. You need to know who Archon Station actually is before you respond to anything. The reports come back over 3 days. What they reveal is complicated. Archon Station started 2 years ago from a coastal settlement that survived the initial outbreak with a military base nearby and defensible geography. Around 300 people initially. Their leader, someone called the coordinator, had a vision, stop fighting each other and start rebuilding at scale. Unified governance, coordinated resources, division of labor, actual civilization instead of scattered survival camps. The first year was voluntary. 15 settlements joined willingly. Population grew to 2,000. Real cooperation, real benefits, real democracy. The second year changed. Archon Station started pressuring settlements to join. Economic restrictions, trade limitations, veiled security threats. Another 20 settlements integrated, some willingly, most under duress. Recent months, 5 settlements were directly annexed by force after refusing integration. Archon Station called them failed states endangering regional security. Professional operations, minimal casualties, quick absorption. Current reality. 47 settlements, 12,000 people, 200 miles of territory. Unified military. Centralized resource distribution. Single governing authority. And an expansion that shows no signs of stopping. The coordinator's reputation splits cleanly depending on who you ask. Supporters call them a visionary. Real elections within settlements. Fair resource distribution. Rule of law. Protection from raiders and infected. Stability that smaller settlements never had. Critics call them an authoritarian in democratic clothing. Dissent suppressed. Settlements that resist get crushed. Democracy is theater for a system where the fundamental direction was decided years ago and can't be changed by vote. The military assessment is what settles the strategic reality. Estimated 2,000 trained fighters. Heavy weapons. Naval assets covering every major water route in the region. Communication network across all settlements. Centralized ammunition production. If Archon Station decides to force integration, your federation falls in days. Maybe weeks if the reclamation force fights alongside you, but the outcome doesn't change. The choice is in front of you. The Federal Council reconvenes with the intelligence laid out on the table. Everyone understands the situation now. The debate that follows is the hardest your federation has ever had. 5 options emerge. Accept integration. Send envoys, negotiate terms, join Archon Station. Your 15 settlements become part of their 47. Your people get access to infrastructure and security you can't build alone. You lose independence, but you survive with better resources and protection than you have now. Refuse and fortify. Reject the ultimatum. Prepare for war. Make invasion so costly Archon Station decides you're not worth the trouble. You preserve independence if it works. You're destroyed if it doesn't, and intelligence says it doesn't. Counter-offer alliance. Propose partnership instead of absorption. Mutual defense, trade agreements, cooperation without surrendering sovereignty. Preserves independence if Archon Station accepts. Probably gets refused because their whole model requires integration, not alliances. Strategic delay. Buy time. Send envoys but drag out negotiations while you prepare. Build connections with other independent settlements. Look for weaknesses in Archon Station's structure. Buys weeks or months but risk provoking exactly what you're trying to avoid once they realize you're stalling. Evacuate and disperse. Abandon settlements. Scatter the Federation into small groups too distributed to absorb. Preserves core values but destroys everything you built. Many people won't survive dispersal. Self-destruction instead. Conquest. The vote fractures the council. No majority emerges for any option. The decision lands on you. You choose none of the 5. We send envoys, but not to negotiate surrender and not to stall. We go to learn who we're actually dealing with. We look the coordinator in the eye and decide if Archon Station is a government or a con job. Then we make the real decision with real information. The council teacher, your conscience officer, volunteers immediately. The council engineer volunteers to assess infrastructure. The Security Council member volunteers to evaluate military capabilities. Then you add yourself to the list. The council erupts. You can't go. If they take you hostage, the Federation has no leadership. If you don't return, the whole structure collapses. You cut through it. If I send people to take risks, I won't take myself. I'm not a leader. I'm a manager. The coordinator wants to meet Federation leadership. They meet me. If Archon Station is legitimate, we negotiate as equals. If they're not, I'll know firsthand. 8-7. You barely passed the vote. You're going to Archon Station. 4 people, 1 vote, 7 days to get there and back with a recommendation. If you don't return, the Federation fortifies for war. The arrival. The journey takes 4 days of increasingly developed coastline. You pass settlements clearly integrated into Archon Station's network. They fly a blue banner with a white star. Independent settlements fly whatever they want or nothing. By the time you reach Archon Station's core territory, you've counted 43 blue banners. 4 settlements still flying their own flags, completely surrounded. The math of your situation becomes physically real as you watch those flags pass. Archon Station itself is not what you expected. You were imagining a fortress, military aesthetics, guard towers and checkpoints. Instead, you're looking at a functioning city, pre-outbreak infrastructure maintained and expanded. Docks built with fresh lumber and salvaged metal. Buildings organized into actual streets with commerce, workshops, housing districts. You see electric lights from the harbor. Grid power, not just scattered generators. People everywhere. Markets. Children in what looks unmistakably like a school. Medical clinics with painted signs. This isn't a survival camp. This is civilization. The council engineers staring. How did they scale? You say quietly. 12,000 people can do things 1,500 can't. Specialization. Coordinated resource extraction. Division of labor. This is what happens when you stop surviving and start rebuilding. Your boat is met by officials with clipboards radiating bureaucratic efficiency. No weapons drawn. No threats. Just polite professional courtesy. Welcome to Archon Station. The coordinator is expecting you. You're escorted through the city. People say you're clearly outsiders, but nobody stops you. You pass the school. Children learning mathematics from an actual teacher with actual books. The council teacher's face shows something complicated, impressed and troubled simultaneously. The security council member mutters, "Nice buildings don't mean nice intentions." He's right. But the buildings are very nice. The coordinator, you're brought to a repurposed administrative building now serving as Archon Station's government center. Inside, people working at desks, radio operators, coordinating with distant settlements, walls covered in maps showing territory and population. This is a functioning government. Not a warlord's command post. The coordinator stands when you enter. Late 40s. Glasses, tired eyes. They extend a hand. "Thank you for coming. I've heard impressive things about what you've built." You shake hands, firm grip, direct eye contact. Someone completely confident in their position. "Please sit. We have a lot to discuss." They don't waste time on small talk. I'll be direct. Archon Station is building regional governments because isolated settlements don't survive long term. You've experienced this yourself: resource crises, external threats, the constant scramble for basic security. We're offering a solution. Integration means you join a system that works. Integration also means we lose autonomy, you say. Your broadcast said voluntary is preferable, but integration is inevitable. That's not an invitation, that's a threat. It's a statement of reality. Survivors are rebuilding in 3 ways. Warlord territories where strength determines rights. Isolated settlements that barely survive. And organized governments that can actually sustain populations. Archon Station is the third option. We're not asking you to submit to tyranny. We're asking you to participate in the only model that scales. The council teacher leans forward. Your elections are real. Council representation exists. But settlements that resist integration get crushed. Is democracy genuine, or is it theater? The coordinator takes off their glasses, rubs their eyes. They look tired in a way that's deeper than one bad night. Democracy is real, but it's not unlimited. Every integrated settlement gets council representation. Every citizen votes. But unified governance itself is not negotiable. You can vote on resource distribution, local leadership, policy priorities. You cannot vote to secede. You cannot vote to fragment the system. So, democracy until we disagree with the fundamental structure, you say. Democracy within the framework that makes democracy possible. Your federation operates the same way. Settlements vote on local issues, but can't vote to abandon mutual defense or violate federation principles. You set boundaries on what's negotiable. So have we. The difference is scale. The private conversation. On the third evening, the coordinator invites you to dinner. Just the two of you. Your council members are entertained separately. Over salvaged wine and preserved food, the coordinator drops the official tone entirely. You're wondering if I'm a tyrant? Fair question. Here's my honest answer. I am a pragmatist who made compromises that look like tyranny from the outside. You wait? When Archon Station started, we tried pure democracy. Every settlement voted on everything. Collective consensus for every decision. Beautiful in theory. In practice, it paralyzed us. 12 settlements spent 3 months debating whether to standardize fishing net sizes, while people starved because coordination was impossible. We nearly collapsed arguing about principles while practical problems killed us. They refill your glass. So I centralized authority. Not because I wanted power, but because someone needed to make decisions when consensus failed. Is that tyranny? Maybe. But we went from 12 dying settlements to 47 functioning ones. I'll accept the moral complexity. That's the logic every authoritarian uses, you say? Emergency powers, temporary measures, just until the crisis passes. Then the crisis never passes. Correct. Which is why I've established term limits. 4 years maximum. Elections for my replacement in 6 months. I'm stepping down regardless of outcome. The structure survives beyond any individual leader. That's how you prevent permanent dictatorship. You build systems that outlast founders. You study their face, looking for the lie. You're not sure you find one. Why tell me this? Transparency about your compromises isn't the best recruitment pitch. Because you're facing the same choice I faced. You've built genuine democracy, maintained principles, and you're discovering that principles don't scale cleanly. Your resource crisis last winter. Your war with the Oceanic Coalition. Every time your federation grows, the choices get harder. Eventually you'll hit the same wall I did. They lean back. My pitch isn't that Archon Station is perfect. It's that we've already made the hard compromises you're still trying to avoid. Join us and skip the painful lessons. Or refuse and learn them alone with fewer resources and more casualties. You sit with that for a long moment. Or you say slowly, we build something that doesn't require those compromises. Something you haven't tried yet. The coordinator looks at you with genuine curiosity for the first time. I'm listening. Your council members reports. The next morning you reconvene privately with your 3 council members. You need their assessments before forming a final recommendation. The council engineer goes first. Infrastructure is legitimate. Everything they showed us exists and functions. Power grid, water systems, food surplus, medical capabilities, all of it exceeds ours significantly. From a purely practical standpoint, integration would dramatically improve our people's quality of life. He pauses, but all of it depends on centralized control. The infrastructure is real, but it's also leverage. You're not just joining a government. You're becoming dependent on systems you don't control. The council teachers next. Democracy is functional, but limited. Local elections are genuine. But strategic decisions, military policy, integration of new settlements, economic structure, those are made by the coordinator and a small executive group. Most people I talk to are fine with this. They've lived through worse. Compared to warlords and raiders, guided democracy feels like freedom. She meets your eyes. The question isn't whether Archon Station is authoritarian. It's whether people care enough about genuine autonomy to fight for it when they have food, safety, and electricity. The Security Council member is blunt. We can't win a war against them. That's the military reality. But here's what I also found. Archon Station has internal tensions. Older settlements that joined voluntarily resent newer ones that were absorbed different treatment. Some council representatives are pushing for exactly the kind of expanded autonomy you'd want. The structure isn't as unified as it looks from outside. That last point stays with you. The counter proposal. You meet the coordinator one final time. Their question is direct. Have you reached a decision? Yes, but not the one you're expecting. You lay it out. We won't accept integration under your current terms. Not because we think you're evil. Because guided democracy has a fatal long-term flaw. It depends entirely on the current leader's character. You have term limits and genuine tensions. The next coordinator might not. The structure you built enables tyranny even if you personally resist it. The coordinator starts to respond. You continue, but we also won't refuse outright. Because you're right that isolation leads to irrelevance and your infrastructure is real. So here's what we're actually proposing. You slide a document across the table. Your council members drafted it on the return journey. 4 pages. Specific terms. We integrate. But not as just 15 more settlements absorbed into your existing structure. We integrate as a pilot program for democratic reform. Every settlement in Archon Station gets these 4 guarantees. The coordinator reads. You watch their face. The 4 terms. First, member settlement veto on deployment of their citizens in military operations not directly involving defense of their own territory. Second, guaranteed right of settlement secession with 1-year notice and no economic penalty. Third, mandatory public transparency of all executive council decisions within 30 days. Fourth, an independent judiciary with authority to review integration protocols and settlement disputes. These terms apply to everyone, you say, not just us. We're not asking for special treatment. We're proposing these as universal rights for all 12,000 people under your governance. The coordinator looks up from the document. You understand these terms limit central authority significantly. I understand they make your democracy real instead of guided, which is either what you want or it isn't. And if I refuse, then we maintain independence and accept the consequences you described. But you should know we're transmitting this proposal on open frequencies. Every settlement in your network and every independent settlement in the region is hearing this offer in real time. The coordinator goes very still. You finish. If you refuse genuine democratic reform when a smaller federation offers it publicly, every settlement watching learns something important about what Archon Station actually values. And if you accept, you don't just gain 15 settlements. You build something that might actually last beyond any single leader. Silence stretches across the room. The coordinator stands, walks to the window, looks out at the city they built. At 12,000 people who depend on the decisions made in this room. I need 3 days. You have 2. We've used 12 of our 14 already. The waiting. You return to your boat. Your council members are quiet. The security council member finally speaks. That was either the best move you've ever made or the last one. Maybe both, you say. The council teacher is looking at you differently. You turn their ultimatum around. Instead of choosing between their terms and war, you put them in the same position they put us. Accept change or reveal your real intentions publicly. The coordinator isn't stupid, the council engineer says. They'll see the trap. It's not a trap, you say. It's a genuine offer. If they accept, 12,000 people get real democratic rights. If they refuse, the region sees who they really are. Either outcome is better than submission or war. You spend 2 days anchored offshore, waiting. watching the blue banners of Archon Station settlements visible along the coastline. On the second day, smaller boats start approaching your position, not military vessels. Fishing boats, tradecraft, small settlement vessels. People from Archon Station settlements who heard the transmission on open frequency. They're not hostile, they're curious. Some of them are hopeful. One boat carries 3 representatives from an Archon Station settlement that was absorbed 80 months ago. They come aboard. They tell you their settlement voted to resist integration and lost. They've had fair treatment under Archon Station governance, but they never stopped feeling like conquered territory. We heard your proposal, one of them says. The secession right alone, if that passed, we'd probably stay anyway. The food security is real. The protection is real. But knowing we could leave makes staying feel completely different. It means we're choosing to be here instead of trapped. You understand exactly what they mean. It's the difference between a relationship and a hostage situation. Same location, completely different meaning. More boats arrive through the day. Word spreads faster than official channels can manage. The open frequency transmission did exactly what you intended. It made this a public negotiation instead of a private one. Archon Station settlements arguing among themselves about the terms. Independent settlements debating whether to wait and see. The Reclamation Force commander contacts you by radio with a single sentence. Whatever happens next, you change the conversation. On the morning of the 14th day, the radio crackles. This is Archon Station. The coordinator requests your presence for final negotiations. We have a counter-proposal. Not acceptance. Not rejection. Counter-proposal. You look at your council members. The council teacher is almost smiling. The Security Council member looks cautiously optimistic. The council engineer is already thinking through implementation details. You respond, we're on our way. The counter-proposal. The coordinator meets you alone this time. No officials. No clipboard carrying assistants. They look like they haven't slept in 2 days. Probably haven't. Your proposal created significant internal debate within Archon Station. Faster than I expected. Some settlement representatives want full adoption of your terms immediately. Others think it's destabilizing. My executive council is split 4-3. Which way are you voting? You ask. I'm going to tell you something I've never said publicly. They sit down heavily. I've been trying to find a way to liberalize Archon Station's governance for 8 months. The structure we built was necessary in the beginning. It's becoming a problem now that we're stable, but every time I raise it internally, there's resistance. People who've built power within the current system don't want the system to change. So we gave you external pressure to do what you couldn't do from inside. You gave me political cover. An allied federation won't integrate without these terms. It's different from the coordinator wants to limit our authority. One is external requirement. The other is internal power struggle. You sit with this? The coordinator didn't fight your proposal. They needed it. What's your counter proposal? They slide their own document across the table. 3 of your 4 terms accepted in full. Veto on military deployment of citizens. Mandatory transparency on executive council decisions. Independent judiciary. The secession right modified. Settlements can leave Archon Station, but with a 2-year notice period instead of 1 year, and with a transition agreement that addresses resource infrastructure dependencies. Not the clean exit you proposed, but a genuine exit nonetheless. And one addition you didn't propose, a constitutional convention within 12 months. Representatives from every integrated settlement drafting formal governance documents that would replace the current ad hoc structure with written law. You read it twice. Look up. The Constitutional Convention, whose idea was that? Mine, 8 months ago. Now it's politically possible because of you. The final decision, you return to your boat one last time. Full council by radio link. Every settlement representative listening. You present Archon Station's counter-proposal in full. Read every term. No editorializing. Then you give your recommendation. Accept it. Silence on the radio. Not because it's perfect. It's not. The 2-year secession period is longer than I want. The Constitutional Convention is a promise, not a guarantee. The coordinator might be sincere, but their successor might not be. You look out at Archon Station's harbor, at the city built from nothing, at the evidence of what 12,000 people can accomplish together. But here's what I know. We started with 1 person trying to survive one night on a sinking ship. We built a settlement of 20, then a federation of 1,500. Every time we grew, we faced choices that looked impossible. Every time we chose cooperation over isolation, we came out stronger. Archon Station is flawed. Their democracy is limited. Their history includes forced integration we'd never authorize. But they've also built something real. Schools, medical care, infrastructure, stability. And they just agreed to write a constitution that could make their democracy genuine. We can stay independent and pure and small, Or we can join something imperfect and help make it better. 12,000 people deserve better governance than they have. We can give it to them by being inside the process instead of outside criticizing it. The vote is 10-5 in favor of acceptance. The Federation will integrate into Archon Station under the modified terms. But before you transmit the acceptance, you add one final condition of your own. We accept, on one additional term, the Federation's democratic model genuine elections, transparent governance, exit rights becomes the structural template for the Constitutional Convention, not the only input, not a guarantee of outcome, but the starting point for the conversation about what Archon Station becomes. The coordinator reads your addition, looks up, nods once. You transmit acceptance on open frequency. Every settlement in the region hears it simultaneously. The response from the smaller boats still gathered around your position is immediate. Cheering you can hear across the water. What just happened? The Federation didn't surrender. It expanded. Not through conquest, through democratic leverage. You joined an empire and brought a reform movement with you. Will the Constitutional Convention produce genuine democracy? Unknown. Will the secession rights survive the next crisis? Unknown. Will the coordinator's successor honor these terms? Unknown. But right now, tonight, 12,000 people have rights on paper they didn't have yesterday. A process is beginning that could make those rights real. And your Federation's model, built from one person in a cabin on a sinking ship, is the foundation document for civilizational governance. That's not nothing. That's everything. If this episode helped you think about democracy at scale, about joining imperfect systems to improve them versus staying pure and irrelevant, hit that like button and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have accepted Archon Station's terms? Would you have refused? Is joining an imperfect system to improve it cooperation or compromise? We'll see you in part 15. The Constitutional Convention is coming, and not everyone wants it to succeed. Stay strong, survivor. The fight for civilization isn't one with weapons. It's one with better ideas.